congratulate Michigan on winning their national championship last night, the first one since 1997. And believe it or not, when you go back on Michigan and look at their schedule, Baylor played them. That's the last time they got claimed the national championship, by the way. Yeah, I had to look that up just to see who they played and everything. And just like, oh, okay. As we all know, Michigan got off to a hot start. They were up 14-3 after the first quarter. And Washington was reeling. They needed to find a way to stay in the game. And they did only give up a field goal to Michigan in the second quarter. And they scored a late touchdown prior to halftime, as we all know. So they were only down one score. Both teams traded field goals in the fourth. So it was a close game. But the fourth quarter, Michigan owned. And I mean owned. Because 14 points for Michigan and 0 for Washington. And I'm going to go over the stats for those who care for the game, not just in terms of team, but not like yards and all that. I'm going to go over penalties and all those other stats. Washington did have 255 passing yards in the game, but 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. And those 2 interceptions cost Washington 10 points in this game. I mean, points on turnovers. Washington running the ball only had 46 yards, so 301 yards for the entire game here. Washington had 1 sack and 3 tackles for loss. 1 kick return for 17 yards, but on the only time, the punt return, one return for 0 yards, and 2 for 2 on field goals, including a long of 45 yards, and 1 for 1 on extra points, and 5 punts for 239 yards, and both of those landed inside the 20-yard line, along with 56. So now Michigan, and granted, Michael Penix was not sharp. 27 for 51. Part of it is because of the Michigan defense, but he was also missing wide open throws. And his ankle got hurt a little bit too. Now, Michigan, they only had 140 yards passing on 10 completions out of 18 attempts. However, here's the big number to keep it up, that killed Washington in this game. 38 rushing attempts for 303 yards, and 4 of those were touchdowns. Yeah, and Washington, what they did on 46 yards was on 20 carries, rushing attempts, mind you. So they were not beating them through the air. They were just killing them on the ground, which that can happen. I mean, look at Washington's defense. And they just didn't have an answer physically for them up front. They only had 1 sack and 1 tackle for loss, but they affected the throwing ability for Michael Penix. And those 2 interceptions one of them was by Mike St. Ristil and Will Johnson, or Sainristil. I apologize if I butchered that name in advance. And Shamaj Morgan had 2 kick returns for 27 yards along with 14 yards. And James Turner made 2 out of 2 on field goals, and along with 38 yards and 4 for 4 on extra points. And only 5 punts in the game for Michigan, 234 yards. And one of those was a touchback, and 2 of those were inside the 20-yard line, along with 53 yards. And you could say what you want about the officiating. Here's the deal. You got to make plays to win, and Washington didn't. And they self-inflicted themselves with 2 turnovers for 10 points. Washington had 17 first downs, and Michigan had 16. 2 for 14 for Washington on third down, 1 for 10 for Michigan on third down. So the big thing is in this game was Michigan was getting first down either on the first down play or second down play. And it just had big yards at a time rushing the ball. 2 for 5 for Washington on fourth down, and 0 for 1 for Michigan on fourth down. Yeah. And I don't need to go over the total yards for Michigan was 443 in total, by the way. I don't need to go over Washington, already went over that. But 5 penalties for 30 yards for Washington, and I know there was a big holding penalty, which it is what it is, and on that it was on a big play, and they called it back because of a hold. I know that might have been questionable for some folks, and I know, but they called it. Got to deal with it. You got to find a way to win the game and make plays. And 5 penalties for Michigan for 45 yards. Time possession, Washington won this game in that aspect, but not by much. 30 minutes, 44 seconds to 29 minutes, 16 seconds. We're going to have to wait and see what happens in the offseason for both of these teams. Like transfer portal, not just leaving, but getting players. I'm just telling the truth. And NFL draft declarations for both of these teams here, and possible staff changes if the one part of the staff leaves for another job, or not getting fired. I would think. I wouldn't think so, but And down the line, we're going to have to wait and see what the NCAA does with Michigan, if they do anything at all, because you know how incompetent they are. So I'm just being brutally honest. And what happens to Jim Harbaugh? Will he go to the NFL after this game? I don't know. What was I surprised by the most was the point difference at the very end of the game. But it was what Michigan did one thing unlike the TCU game they did a year ago. They didn't allow 30 points. And I knew that if Michigan held Washington down below 30 points, they had a chance to win the game. And second, they never trailed in the game unlike that TCU game a year ago. They never did. So literally from that playoff semifinal a year ago against TCU to this, that's a huge congratulations to those guys. And we're going to wait and see what the NCAA does down the line with them. And whether or not these wins get vacated or what the punishment is for their sign stealing and all that. And y'all could discuss that in the comments. I'm just telling the truth about this because the NCAA is they might do something. I'm just being honest. And you could put an asterisk by it if you want, but they won the title. All right? And until the NCAA does something to Michigan, let's just let it be. And I know it sounds like I don't care. I do care. I don't like when cheating occurs and all this, especially at the extent of sign stealing, of like you literally saw videotape a guy with a phone or something on the sidelines and all this. We're going to have to wait and see what happens to them, alright? Until then, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. So anyways, if you like this content, like and subscribing. I'll see you guys later. On the road to 600 subscribers. Of course, ultimate goal is 1,000 more, so I make money off this. Of course, liking the video, comment the video. It really helps YouTube algorithm so more people can see it. Sharing the videos help as well, so more people can watch. And if you're watching and not subscribed, hit subscribe button. It's free, hit notification bell as well. If Michigan does end up 15-0 and Washington lost the first game of the year, and they're 14-1 to finish the season.